Oh yeah! Hey, what's up everyone? Swayne here, and today we're going to be talking about the Fire Brownie Magician, also known as Draco, because her Hall of Heroes is being released from July 10th through July 13th, which is this weekend. Or maybe not this weekend, depending on how late you watch this video. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Fire Brownie Magician, whether you should farm her or not, whether or not you should build her, and whether or not you should make her a 6-star monster. So let's dive right in. Here we have the awesome Draco. Ooh. Oh yeah, cool beans. So first of all, let's just talk about, should you be farming this Hall of Heroes? The answer varies depending on the player. I would say if you do not have an immunity monster, in other words, if you do not have a monster that gives the immunity buff, I would definitely farm at least one Draco. All right. If you have tons of immunity monsters and you don't like Draco, you don't like the looks of Draco, you don't think you're ever going to use one, yada, 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 then I think it's probably okay to skip this Hall of Heroes. However, I really do think that Draco is a phenomenal monster, and I think that she is absolutely worth building. She is absolutely worth 6-starring, and she really is just a really solid monster. I think she has an awesome skill set. She has a great leader skill. I think her base stats are pretty good, and I think that she's usable in competitive arena and competitive guild wars. So let's talk about her skills, and then we'll talk about how I would rune a Draco. So her first skill, Run, bounces towards the enemy to attack and gets another turn with a 30% chance. So this does not mean that she attacks with Run again. It means that she gets another turn, which is exactly like Violent, okay, on her first skill, built in automatically. This means that as she is just attacking normally, she has a pretty high chance to be decreasing the cooldown times of both of her other skills, which is really, really cool. Really awesome. Her second skill is called Fly, and attacks all enemies with giant orbs, decreasing their defense for 1 turn. This attack lands as a crushing hit, regardless of the enemy's attribute. There are a couple things to note about this skill that I think are really, really cool. First of all, it is an AoE defense break. It attacks everyone, it decreases their defense for 1 turn. Even though it's only 1 turn, this is still really good. And it is guaranteed to land, of course, factoring in the accuracy and resistance that it could be resisted, but the proc rate of it is 100%, which is really awesome. And in addition, this attack lands as a crushing hit, regardless of the enemy's attribute, which means that water monsters are not safe. You may, go into the fight using an all-water team, and Draco is going to defense break all 3 of those water monsters. No question, because it's not going to hit as a glancing hit. So that can be really troublesome and kind of unpredictable for some people if they aren't super familiar with Draco. And I know that there are some people out there that aren't super familiar with Draco's skill sets. So definitely a cool attack. Absolutely awesome. And I believe it does go down to being reusable in 3 turns at max skill level. Her third skill is what a lot of people really like about her. Whistle. Blows a whistle to recover 30% of the attack gauge of allies and gives immunity effect for 2 turns. So, of course, the main effect that people are really drawn to is the immunity effect buff. A lot of players would argue that the immunity buff is potentially one of the absolute best buffs in the entire game. And I don't think I disagree with them. I think that it's probably safe to say that immunity is easily one of the absolute best, if not the best buff in the game that you can give to a monster. There's a number of really phenomenal buffs that you can give, but I think that immunity is definitely one of the absolute top ones. So this is a good skill just because of that. But something that a lot of people, I think, tend to overlook is the attack gauge boost. Now, there are a couple monsters that are well known and used quite popularly. such as Belladonna and Bernard, that also increase the attack gauge. And many of you know the strength of attack gauge boosting monsters. And I don't think that Draco is an exception to this. I think that this skill is good on a multitude of levels. It not only speeds up your team, but it also allows you to steal turns from enemy monsters. It allows you to really just take full advantage of all of your attacking monsters and even all of your support monsters as they cycle through their skills quicker and, of course, are protected with that immunity buff. So I think that's an awesome skill, and at max skill level, this will be reusable in 4 turns, which is pretty awesome. She has a great leader skill that increases the HP of ally monsters by 25%. It's just a general leader skill. It works everywhere. Literally works everywhere. Guild Wars, TOA, dungeons, you name it, it works. And you get that leader skill when you awaken Draco. In terms of her base stats, I really like her base stats overall. Draco is naturally very tanky with pretty high HP and pretty solid defense stats, which is really, really awesome. There are a number of ways to build her, and by the way, I would very highly recommend building her. And I think that Draco is absolutely worth 6-starring and using in your teams as you're playing Summoner's War, in Arena, and in Guild Wars. I think that she provides quite a bit of utility and can really, really do some work, I think. There are 2 main builds that I think are most viable for Draco. The first, of course, is going to be Violent Will. If you don't know what Violent is, basically it allows you to attack multiple times, and it gives you extra turns, which cycles through your cooldown times much faster, and it's very excellent. While Will runes at the very beginning of the match provide you with 1 turn of immunity, which is great when you're going up against monsters like Zyros and things like that, or other monsters that can stun you or incapacitate you in some way, or make your monsters less effective somehow by using debuffs and things like that. So that basically allows her to use Whistle right out of the gates almost every single time, assuming that her AI is good if you're doing auto mode or putting her on defense or something like that. What's great about Violent Runes on Draco is that it does mix well with all of her skills, really. With Violent Runes, she really can go crazy, because her first skill, of course, has a Violent Rune effect, and she has Violent Runes on her, which means that she's going to be spamming her second and third skills like crazy, because she can just cycle through stuff all the time, which means that your monsters are almost always going to have an immunity buff on them. The enemy monsters are going to have at least 1 turn of defense break on them pretty consistently, and Draco is just going to keep going and going and going and going and do its thing, which is pretty cool. The other build that I think is extremely viable for Draco, and I think will be my preferred build actually with Draco, is going to be Despair Will. And so basically you're swapping out the Violent Runes for Despair Runes. And the reason for this is because she does have a built-in violent effect with her first skill, as we already talked about, which means that you could argue that she doesn't really need Violent Runes to still be effective, because she is going to be cycling through her cooldown times still fairly quickly. In addition to that, she will be stunning as well with her first skill, and especially her second skill, which is an AoE attack. And don't forget, too, that it will not land as glancing hits against water-type monsters, which means that they're not safe from being stunned either. So defense break and stun possibility with the second skill, and stun possibility with the first skill. So that's pretty cool, and I think that really provides extra utility for Draco to have, and even allows her to be more useful in dungeons and things like that as well, and Guild Wars. Stuns in Guild Wars are phenomenal. So that's pretty sweet, and those are kind of the 2 builds that I think are most used with her. I think for both builds, I would rune speed, HP, HP. So speed, HP percentage, and HP percentage on slots 2, 4, and 6. for both the Violent and the Despair build. I think that she needs to be fast and tanky in order to really be put to good use. And you could definitely look for some accuracy substats and just general tankiness substats, and that definitely will not go wrong for you at all. So that is how I would build Draco right there. So in conclusion, I think Draco is a really solid monster. She definitely, in my opinion, deserves to be farmed, deserves to, I think that Draco definitely is worth building, definitely worth 6-starring, and is really an awesome monster. So tell me what you guys think down in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Your guys' support is seriously so amazing, and I can't believe that I've been growing at the rate that I have. And thank you so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Swayne out.